What's up, guys? This is Straight Up No Butter, and today we are going to learn how to make hummus and pita bread. I am super excited about this episode because I basically grew up off of hummus, if you couldn't tell, and pita bread. My mom is an amazing Armenian talented cook, and I learned this recipe from her and then took it and made it my own. Of course, I do this with everything. So, if you guys want to learn how to make an easy, quick snack, stay tuned for this episode. Alright, we have 100% white all-purpose flour, we have warm water, salt, sugar, active dry yeast, and olive oil. This is all you're going to need to make your pita bread. Obviously, you're going to need some time. You'll need a skillet later to cook it. We won't be using the oven. You can use the oven, but I prefer to use a skillet. It's a lot more fun and it tastes a lot better. So, we're going to add all of these ingredients into the bowl. And then we're going to mix it up, we're going to get dirty, we're going to knead it on the table over here. I'm going to show you guys how to do that process. The dough is going to be a little bit wet, and then we're going to add flour, and we're going to get it a little sticky as we need. But then eventually it'll stop sticking, it'll get very usable and malleable, and it'll be very nice dough. So let's get straight into it. We're going to use 400 grams of all-purpose flour that I put into the bowl, approximately 175 grams of warm water, 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast, and 1 tablespoon of salt. We're going to use 2 tablespoons of white sugar and 1/4 cup of olive oil. We'll add all of these in no specific order, and then we'll mix it together and start kneading the bread. Alright, once you've mixed in the salt, the sugar, and the oil with the flour, you're going to make like a little well in your flour, and this is where you're going to add in your active dry yeast. So after you add in the active dry yeast, we're going to make basically a little well with the water. We're going to mix it around, and we're going to kind of let it activate for a little bit, a couple minutes, and then we're going to mix it all together. Alright, as you can see, yeast, warm water mixing together. Just let that activate together. Kind of swirl it around. And let's give it a couple minutes before we mix it all together. In here you can see that we have bubbles going on from our active dry yeast. If you have brand new yeast, you should have no problem with this activating. Also, if you have the packets of yeast, then this will equivalent to probably just 1 packet of yeast. But you can still measure it just to be sure. It won't be more than 1 packet, that's for sure. So now it's time to mix it all together. Alright, due to inconsistencies of human behavior, we always add a little bit more or a little bit less of certain things. I added a little bit too much flour, it seems, and I'm going to have to add in a little bit more water. I added in approximately 25 more grams of water. So let's just go with the base recipe of 400 grams of flour and 200 grams of warm water, and you roll off of that. Now it's starting to look a lot better, and I obviously needed that water to hydrate this dough. So now we're just gonna roll this back onto the table, and we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty part of kneading this dough, pun intended. And I'm going to show you the process of that. This is going to take a little while, but we really don't want to skip this step. We want to make sure that this step is done thoroughly, and you will see how good the bread comes out after you're done kneading it properly. Alright, I've kneaded the dough for about, let's say, 5 minutes. Of course, it's going to always be different if you are stronger or less stronger. So based on how hard you're kneading the dough, it'll take a little bit longer. But we're all going to go off of how it feels and how it looks. Now clearly you can see that I am holding this bread, this dough, and it is not sticking to me whatsoever. I can stretch it, I can pull it, I can play with it like Play-Doh, and that's what you're going for. You want to look for like a Play-Doh kind of substance. And so now we're at the point where I touch it, it springs back, I poke it, it springs back. So now we're going to try and shape it into a ball. We're going to let it proof in olive oil, and we're going to go into the next step, which is making the hummus. So to shape it into a ball, it's very easy. You just got to pull and tuck, pull and tuck, and pull and tuck. Okay, so now we're into a ball. We're just going to kind of roll it around and roll it around to get those creases on the bottom to flatten out. And you're using the slight stickiness of this dough on the board with no flour dusted on the bottom and slightly dusted hands to crease the bottom of the dough. Okay, so we crease the bottom. All right, now we got our ball of dough, and you can see right here, this is an amazing sign that your dough is alive already. I have this bubble. Look at this bubble right here. You see this bubble? That is an amazing sign that my dough is alive. It's ready to go. It's ready to proof. It's going to puff up for us, and it's going to do amazing things. It's going to become an awesome pita bread. So, I'm going to grab my proofing bowl. And we're going to take our olive oil, and we're going to use about 1 tablespoon of olive oil just to line the bowl. We're just going to line the bowl with olive oil. We don't want to overdo it. This is to prevent it from sticking while it rises and proofs. And it's going to also add some awesome olive oil fattiness and flavors to the bread that we need there. So we're also going to rub the dough with that olive oil so it doesn't dry out. Stays very moist. That's what we want. As you can see, it's easy for me to pick up. I don't need any special tool, nothing. It should be just like this when you make it. Get it into a nice wide proofing bowl, and we're gonna let it rise for about 2 hours. I'm gonna put it in my oven with no oven turned on, just straight into the oven so it stays nice and warm. It rises to its full potential. And so we're gonna cover it up with plastic wrap, and we're gonna move on to the hummus. All right guys, now it's time to make our hummus. This hummus is awesome, great flavors, very light, but still has good flavor to it. So, this is 3 cans of garbanzo beans, all 16-ounce cans. You can find them at Costco or any major supermarket. So, here you go, you can see. And we're gonna use, I squeezed 3 lemons, but we got a 1/2 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice here. We got a 1/4 cup of tahini. This is sesame tahini. If you don't know what sesame tahini is, you can find it in an international aisle at any supermarket. It's sesame flavor. It has a pasty texture. It's mixed with oil. It's very easy to find. It shouldn't be hard to find. And of course, olive oil and our roasted garlic, which we are going to show you in a second. The reason why we're roasting our garlic is because if you don't roast the garlic, it's going to have a spicy garlic-y flavor, if you know what I'm talking about, that spice that comes off of raw garlic. I prefer to roast it in oil, and the oil will get that flavor from the garlic, and it'll spread throughout the whole thing of hummus, and it tastes like a roasted garlic hummus, which is an awesome flavor. They're different. If you don't like roasted garlic, you can put in raw garlic. I prefer to use 10 cloves of roasted garlic and about 1/4 cup of olive oil. So we're going to put these ingredients in, we're going to mix it together, and it's going to be done. Simple as that. I'm going to say approximately 1/4 cup of oil. We're going to start up the heat. We'll throw our garlic cloves inside. Alright, we've been heating it up for about a minute now. As you can see, our oil is frying the garlic. So now we're going to pull it off the heat, or just turn off the heat, and we're going to let that finish just like that. And this is how we roast our garlic for the hummus. Also, just so you know, I strained out the canned chickpeas because they have a weird slimy substance to them to keep them preserved, and they have a little bit of salt on them as well. So I washed it with water and I strained it out and got all that water off, just so you guys know before you start this. No. If I didn't mention before, this is 2 tablespoons of salt, but you got to add it to your flavor liking. You can go with what I like, but I prefer you guys to start tasting it and understanding how much salt content you like. Some people like it saltier than others. I like it on the saltier side where you can taste the salt, but not too much where it's overpowering everything else. It's going to be a nice garlicky flavor. And we're going to reserve this olive oil right here, and we're going to put it in slowly as we're blending. Your machine might get stuck, so let's just try to move it around a little bit. Now to dilute it a little bit and to loosen this up, we're going to add in 1/4 cup of water. Can you stop it? Alright, if you're using a food processor, make sure your food processor is strong and it works. Otherwise, you're going to have to transfer everything over to your food processor that actually does work, which is going to be my blender. So, brief moment, we're going to transfer everything to the blender and keep blending it. Get this piece of crap out of here. Oh. Alright, we got a food processor that worked. A blender, whatever you want to call it. It blended it up. It's nice and smooth. We're ready to go. Now let's move on to our bread. Let's start making that pita bread and get to snacking. Alright, it's been 2 hours proofing in our oven, and we have exploded our pita bread, which is awesome. This is how we want it to look. If you remember how small it was before, now it is almost 4 times in size. And now we are ready to flatten it out again and turn it into our pita little circles and cook it on our skillet. Now you're going to get a cast iron skillet or a grill skillet, any kind of skillet that you have really. I prefer that you guys keep to something that is more cast iron because it's going to withhold higher heat content and it's going to cook it faster and cause it to bubble up instead of stick together. So that's what we're looking for in pita bread. So let's make sure we get those pans ready, get them greased up, get them ready to go, and we will continue to shape our pita bread. Alright, so now we're going to lightly dust our surface here. We're going to put the bread out on the table, and we're going to try and cut even pieces of about 8 or 10 based on this loaf. So we're just going to dust this out. You don't want to add too much. You don't want it to become dry and splitted. So we're going to go ahead and roll that dough right on there. And it's very stretchy, very easy to work with. So I'm gonna go with the method of kind of just rolling it out. We're gonna end up putting these in circles anyway, so it doesn't really matter the exact shape you have now. It matters the exact shape when we let it rest for the second time in a ball. So As you can see, try to evenly proportion all the dough and the whole length. Fold in these ends because you know they're not even. And now we're just going to count. We're going to count how many pieces we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Sure, I could have made that an even 10, but it's okay. All right, so now this is not tricky, but this is the technique part of this. Is we're going to pull and tuck into itself to create a ball. Basically, what we're trying to do is make it as smooth as possible. So when we smooth it out into its flat pita shape, it still has that circle and that nice little shape that we all know as pita bread. Another, pull and tuck. All right, now we're going to let these rest for about 5 minutes covered. As you can see that they're kind of uneven, so if you want them to be perfectly even and you have a scale, you can weigh out each and one of your balls of dough. It'll be a lot more perfect, and if you're a perfectionist, that's okay. You know, you can do it. You can take the extra time. I'm not that much of a perfectionist when it comes to pita bread. I like them to be a little bit uneven, so this is my preference. And now we're going to cover it with a towel. Cover it 5 minutes, make sure it doesn't dry out, and we'll come back to it, flatten them out, and shape them. Alright guys, now it's time to start heating up your cast iron pan. This is what I'm going with. It's kind of a grill shape. I'm going to start heating it up. Put it on high. It's been 5 minutes. So, as we shape this, we're going to go one by one so it doesn't dry out. Okay, so you're going to grab one, you're going to cover it up. You make some space for yourself, and you're going to let your pan heat up, and then you'll start shaping it, right? So now I'll probably actually give this pan about 2 minutes before it gets fully hot, and I'll spray it down with a little bit of oil, and then I'll shape the first one, and I'll start cooking it while I'm shaping the other one. That way we don't let the bread dry out, and we can be cooking it at the same time. Given a couple minutes for our pan to heat up, now it's time to shape the first pita, and then cook it, and then move on to shaping the second one. We're just going to kind of make a rhythm. So we're going to do this, we're going to shape it, you're going to press it out when you start, try to make it as much of a circle as possible, and then you're going to bring over a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use something round of shape that's wood or something like it, but I would recommend you get a rolling pin if you want to do baking. And we're going to try and shape it out as thin in a circle as possible. Now let this sit for about 30 seconds to de-stress, kind of just come back a little bit together, and then we're going to slap it on the pan, and then we'll keep going back and forth. Once you got one on the pan, then you're going to start shaping the next one. Alright, everything's cooked, you're ready to go, you're ready to eat. Now, I'm going to show you how to make it a fancy plate up for you and your girlfriend or whatever, your boyfriend, whatever you're going to do. I'm going to show you how to make it look a little pretty, a little nice, how we would do in the restaurant style. And first we're going to start off, we're going to cut our pita bread. We'll cut it in half. And then we'll cut it in half again. Make like a little triangle in half. Cut it in half again, and then we're just gonna spread it around our plate and bowl. You got it right here. So we got a like nice little fancy bowl and a white plate. Just gonna kind of place it around here. Do one more. And this pita bread smells amazing, guys. I can't wait to eat. Alright, we're going to take our hummus, fill the bowl. Don't fill it up all the way. That's a tip and trick. You don't want to overfill it. You just want to make sure it has a good amount. If you overfill, it's less appealing to the eye if you overfill it. So we're just going to twist it around. And we're going to use some smoked paprika. Cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, whatever you prefer flavor-wise. Cayenne pepper will make it a little bit more spicy. Smoked paprika will add some more flavor. So that's what I'm going to use. A little smokiness. Just going to kind of filter it through. That's good. And then we'll garnish with a pretty little mint right there. Now you can garnish with parsley, chopped parsley, anything you really want. I prefer parsley, but I didn't have any, so I'm using mint, placing it right in the middle. It's going to be a nice flavor, so enjoy, guys. Actually, yeah, I forgot to mention, put a little drizzle of olive oil around, and that will enhance your flavors big time, make it look nice and pretty, nice and shiny. So enjoy, guys. I hope you enjoy your snack. This is Straight Up No Butter. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the video. Have a nice day.